Welcome to Newsroom from our studios at number 5 Ola Hansen Lane at Tessano. My name is Michael Obodu. Months ago.
Actually, I'm excited that the vaccines are in now. But initially, we come and they will say the vaccines, there is no vaccine.
Coalition of Individual Bondholders Group gives the Finance Minister a 48-hour ultimatum to pay all matured principals and outstanding coupons due on the existing bonds issued by the government. Meanwhile, Ministry says it has begun processes to commence payments on Thursday.
You've taken their money, and the time for you to come and pay, you say you are not going to pay, and they should go to court.
North Tongue Member of Parliament demands the termination of contract for the construction of the National Cathedral.
It is time for this contract to be abrogated. It is time for the National Cathedral project to be cancelled. The Board of Trustees should be dissolved. The Secretariat should be closed down. Everybody should be asked to go home and let us save money.
And later, President Akufo-Addo confers national honors on over 19,000 individuals, including Citi TV's Umar Sanda Amadou, and institutions that played significant roles in the country's fight against the COVID-19 pandemic.
Our relative success in winning the fight against COVID-19 is a testament to the tireless work of our researchers, scientists, advisors, public health managers, frontline healthcare workers.
Thank you for tuning in. Let's bring you our first story now, as vaccination for children has begun in various health facilities in the Greater Accra region. This comes after Ghana took delivery of some childhood vaccines last weekend after months of shortage, which contributed to the outbreak of measles in parts of the northern region. On Monday, the Greater Accra Regional Health Directorate municipal health officers to distribute in health facilities within their jurisdiction to begin the vaccination. The vaccines include BCG, OPV, polio, and measles vaccinations. Now, Citi News says Akosua Otre visited some health facilities and brings us updates. Akosua, what more can you tell us?
So after several months of not having vaccines in the country, I'm talking about the childhood vaccines, eventually the Ghana Health Service was able to take delivery of some of these vaccines. I'm talking about the BCG, the OPV vaccine, the measles, and also the polio vaccines. They arrived in the country over the weekend. And on Monday, the Greater Accra Regional Health Directorate was able to distribute these vaccines to the various municipal health assemblies. And so today, I'm currently at the Adabraka Polyclinic, and a number of mothers have been able to come here to get the vaccines for their children. So it's excitement on the faces of the mothers. I'll just speak to some of them on the struggles of not getting these vaccines over the past few months, and also they having to get it today. What is the feeling like?
Try 2 weeks and na omuka say 6 weeks as I samba until then 6 weeks I samba
nti na mo de ne ba nwenye
patwa
nya nini
na mo won 9 mienu na mo so na mi so mienu oh say my happy say manya bie ma me nkochi ne mere say kwa ha
because na ha o me
patwa na ha me de bia me faka me kwa me kodo aye say asa na ma samba me go do almost chara me say ebi wo han me say me san ko me kwa go do almost say ebi no na ma san ba nti ena me ba han ma manya bi no mani age ebi say me fa akora na san chini sa
ya wono 31st January but ya wono wie ye no na ete say omuso nanum omusi ebi ni wo ewo Adabraka polyclinic ha be sisi ya ba die ebi aba o ma hwe ye fefe wo polyclinic ho no ye fa mu pa because ye fa taxi na ko ho no ko di line ansana ye nya ye na ye ma hi ade nti
aba yi de se mu ni age
oh ye ni age pa na ye ba
so mungu so anfa bimbra so da mo mbe wo no mbenye bi e de aba.
So indeed the vaccines have arrived, and you can tell from the faces of the mothers who have come here to get the vaccines for their children. Anybody or any mother who comes in here with their award will be able to get the vaccination. And so it's currently ongoing here at the Adabraka Polyclinic. We also pay a visit to the lab polyclinic to see what the situation is like over there. So this is the lab polyclinic, and the situation is no different. You can see the vaccination ongoing until the mothers came here as early as 7 a.m. to get their children vaccinated. And so that's currently ongoing at the lab polyclinic. So it's ongoing at various health facilities across the country. For Citi News, Akusia Ochre.
Still on the subject, nursing mothers in the Ashanti region on Tuesday thronged various health facilities in the region to have access to childhood vaccines that were in short supply. Health professionals administering the vaccines say they are unable to tell how long these vaccines will last and are hoping that the next batch of vaccines will arrive early enough to avoid another shortage. Our bureau chief for the Middle Belt, Edward Opomafu, reports.
To the shortage of some essential childhood vaccines, many parents in the Ashanti region expressed worry as some facilities had recorded cases. Nursing mothers who visited the health facilities were turned away. As a result of this, nursing mothers have for months been looking forward to getting the vaccines for their babies. This unfortunate state of affairs led to a situation where a baby at the Menchia District Hospital, for instance, got infected with measles. Authorities at the facility, however, tell Citi News they have received some amount of all required childhood vaccines to avert another positive case following the arrival of the vaccines into the country. The disease control officer for the Menchia District Hospital, Darius Ajay Balfour, has disclosed that the baby at the facility who got infected has now recovered.
Concerning the positive measles case, the child has recovered. She is fit, and even when we went to the house, she was playing and everything was fine, with the exception of the dark spot on the skin. When you get rashes and we treat it, there will be some dark spot on it. So aside the dark
received, what was the state now? Are they enough to serve the people here?
Yes, I won't say there are plenty, but I think the one we have now is you can manage for some time. I'm sure they will add more because they don't know the number of people who have let me say who needed vaccine. So they gave us some few ones to use it for now. Then later we add up. So we still have some at the regional code room. So in case there is switched, then you go there to pick some. For yellow fever, I can say 200. They gave us 200 doses, which is for 200 children.
During Citi News' visit to some health facilities in the region, including the Menchia District Hospital and the Central Government Hospital, nursing mothers whose babies are supposed to take their vaccines had gathered to get them for their children. Although they are excited, they want authorities to put adequate measures in place to prevent another instance of shortage.
Normally we come and they will say the vaccines, there is no vaccines, but now I'm excited and I'm happy that the vaccines are in now. And then I wish authorities to, maybe there shouldn't be shortage of vaccines like that anymore. I'd wanted maybe anytime, like the vaccine should be available.
Me bananya 11 months ni 9 months ye ba na panyani bi enu ha me pa last month nso ye ba still ebi ni ho nti ama ye pie fie kura ebe we nkura na asa akodro ache me nti enne nso me ba ye me wura edem ho omo hwe omo si enne de ebi wo ho ba eye me de pa
Parliamentary dear, I was saying in any time be around send ya a bebwa a crown so. If you say ye banner a bin hona ye cosa na moi a crown a Dutch.
The head of the Public Health Department at Mesha District Hospital, Mavis, she says they have enough.
We have all the vaccines available. So we are entreating the mothers to come in with their babies for them to be immunized. We don't have challenges again. Now we have all the vaccines, the diluents, syringe and needles, everything is okay with us now.
So what you have now, how many weeks can these ones last?
We have enough, and we understand there are some on the way. So we hope by the close of the week we'll get more and we'll be able to vaccinate them. So we are not anticipating any shortage for now.
The head of the Public Health Department at the Central Government Hospital, Felicia Mami Fuidua, says in order to avoid putting pressure on their facility, they have supplied over 20 chip zones under the hospital with adequate vaccines to be given to nursing mothers in various communities in the area.
For this morning, we started with a normal CWC session, and the mothers who came here were given the vaccines they were entitled. So if your child is due for polio, is due for penta, is due for measles, whichever vaccine they were given this morning. And so we still have some mothers here who are also receiving DS. And we are having 23 chip zones. And for the chip zones, they are all still under Suntresu. We have community health nurses working in all those zones so that the pressure at Suntresu certainly will be minimized.
The health professionals here are confident that the available vaccines will be able to serve the babies that will be brought in here until the next batch of vaccines arrive into the country. For Citi News, I'm Edward Upon Marfo.
Now, and up for weighing on Tuesday have expressed excitement over the availability of vaccines at health centers after a long period of shortage. A visit to some facilities in the Tamale and Sagnerugu areas saw mothers in the queue waiting to have their babies vaccinated. Dinah Ungwan has the rest of the story from the northern region.
It was a busy day at the Tamale Sub Metro Health Center as hundreds of mothers came for weighing, according to health officials. Stock for the children. Children who were long due for various antigens were seen receiving their doses. This comes after a shortage of vaccines disrupted routine immunization since last year. Some of the parents who spoke to Citi News were happy about the development, but they urged the government to ensure a regular supply of vaccines for immunization.
I actually came for measles immunization with my baby, Pakamazena. She was supposed to do it when she was 9 months old, but because of the shortage, we couldn't. RCH here, they have started, so I quickly rushed in here with her. Unfortunately for us, she just took her jab of the immunization, and we are very grateful.
You know, when she was born, we were supposed to come here for this years. So when we called to verify, they said the vaccine was not around. So we waited and called today, and they said it is they have gotten it. That's why we are here. And as you can see, she has been vaccinated. Yes.
I hope they should be there. Always when we come, we'll have it. Anytime we come, but it shouldn't come small time. It will be short again. And to look like when you come, you have to be going off and on again. But like the way the one we took today. protect our children. Yes.
I mean, he should try and provide us the vaccine. You know, when they give you the prescribed date for you to come and inject and it's not there, we the mothers, we are always worried. So I appeal to the government to do something about it for us.
After a long period of waiting, mothers can now have vaccines for their babies. They urge government to ensure regular supply of vaccines at the various facilities. From Tamale, I am Dina Ungwan, reporting for Citi News.
Now, away from the health sector, the Coalition of Individual Bondholders Group has given the Finance Minister a 48-hour ultimatum to pay all matured principal and outstanding coupons due on the existing bonds issued by the government of Ghana. Some bondholders who self-exempted and others who received an issuer's exemption from government's domestic debt exchange program are yet to receive the payments of matured coupons and principals since February 6. Now, my colleague Charles Owusu-Kumi joins us and brings us more details. Charles, what more can you tell us?
Well, Michael, some of government's domestic creditors, especially individual bondholders who did not tender their bonds under the domestic debt exchange program for new ones, say that they are disappointed with government. Their reason is that since February 6, there's been a series of bonds that have matured, and as is usually the case, government was expected and is expected to pay the coupon payments and the principals on these bonds. But that has not been the case. On the 27th of February, the individual bondholders formed a coalition, met the finance minister in his office, and one of the key issues they raised was that there was a lack of information coming from the finance ministry as to when and why these bonds have not been paid and when they are going to be paid. So right after that meeting, the finance ministry released a statement, and it said in that statement that from the 13th of March. Yesterday, Monday, was the 13th of March, and that did not happen. These payments have not been made. And also, there's been nothing from the finance ministry explaining why this has not been done. So I caught up with Dr. Edu Ananyentri. He is the convener for the Pensioner Bondholders Forum.
This market strive for information. If there is something happening and people know that this is happening, they are okay. They don't panic. Investors believe that by this day I should get my coupon, I should get my principal. If it's not going to happen, if it's going to happen, you don't at this time. So there's no need calling people to say we are going to pay. But if you think or you know it's not going to happen, then to avoid people, going through all these challenges, why haven't my calling people, have you been paid? They say I haven't been paid. You call your bank, my account be credited, we haven't got it. Then people speculate, what is happening? Is it that the government doesn't have money to pay? What is it? Then you are disturbing the market. But if you came out and said, look, I'm supposed to pay you today, but as a result of ABC, I may not be able to pay today. Meanwhile, I'm working seriously to resolve whatever issues you have, and very soon you will see payment. Then you allow speculation to be going around. Everybody has its own interpretation.
Now, the argument has been made that when government announced a debt restructuring program, it was actually putting out information to investors that it did not have the capacity to honor its debt obligations. And so individual bondholders who refused to tender their bonds under the domestic debt exchange program knew exactly what they were doing, and they knew that government would have difficulty to honor coupon payments and principal payments when they are due. So I asked Dr. Adrian this question, but he explained that pensioner bondholders were exempted from the domestic debt exchange program by government itself, and so this logic cannot be applied to them.
For us, if we are looking only at pensioners, we were exempted. And having been exempted is equal to government saying, as for you, your bonds, I was not going to restructure. It wasn't part of the bonds I was going to restructure. And if my bond was not part of the bonds we were going to restructure, then you have said you don't have a problem at all whatsoever handling my bond. So that's why I say when it gets to the time that you haven't paid, we who have been exempted will come and ask you, isn't you the same person who said you don't have a problem with my bond and therefore you are not putting it as part of the restructuring program? Why are you not giving me my money? So you see the difference that I tried to explain. So for us, we have been exempted, and that means the government has gotten no
we are gradually destroying our financial market and leaving very little for it. The actors of the sector must be responsible. They have a mandate, a fiduciary responsibility to us as people and to the state. We can't destroy the reputation of our country simply because we are employed for a short period and after our politics we walk away and leave generations yet unborn and ask who are their people to continue to suffer the remnants of their ill behavior and ill management of these actors of state. And respectfully, I unfortunately have to call out the Security and Exchange Commission and the Ghana Stock Exchange, who are led by very experienced people in the sector. Somehow politics erodes people's commitment and reason to professionalism and that which is in the interest of the country. That must stop.
We are told that the Finance Ministry intends to begin the payment of these matured bonds in the next 48 hours. But what if this does not happen? I asked Dr. Adrian Anyentwi if the Pensioner Bondholders Forum is considering legal action.
We believe government will not let us go that route. And it's not good. It will be such a bad thing to this country. Your own citizens, you've taken their money, and the time for you to come and pay, you say you are not going to pay, and they should go to court. That will be bad. It will just be bad, and the repercussion will just not be. We don't hope to get there, and no government would want to go there.
My name is Charles Osukumi for Citi News.
Meanwhile, the Finance Ministry has announced that processes to settle payments on outstanding bonds commenced on March 13. According to a statement from the ministry, the initial instruction covers coupons and principal payments on bonds that matured on 6th and 13th February 2023. Holders of these bonds are therefore expected to receive payments within 48 hours from Tuesday, March 14. Now, away from that, the Member of Parliament for North Thong, Samuel Kutetu-Ablakwa, is demanding the termination of contracts for the construction of the National Cathedral. The MP says the one-year suspension of the project is incurring much cost to the taxpayer. Speaking to journalists, Samuel Kutetu-Ablakwa says the over $1 billion project would not materialize, hence the need for the government to abrogate the project and dissolve the Board of Trustees. There's more in the following report by my colleague, Ni Ayikwe Okan. Ni, what more can you tell us?
On the National Cathedral project was suspended. Hence, there is the need for the government to terminate the contract and dissolve the Board of Trustees to save the country of the cost that could be incurred.
Finances are in dire straits. The government itself admits that is why it has made an embarrassing U-turn on the issue of road tolls. It is desperate, looking for money anywhere, everywhere, at the same time. And yet, the government is refusing to abrogate this National Cathedral project, which clearly has become a pipe dream, a castle in the air, a project which cannot materialize. The original scheduled completion date was March next year, March 2024, without any delays, without any suspension. Here we are on the first anniversary of suspension of works. Clearly, this project cannot be completed. It cannot see the light of day. And instead of the president looking on extension of time claims, standing time claims, abortive and reworks due to suspension of works, it is time for this contract to be abrogated. It is time for the National Cathedral project to be cancelled. The Board of Trustees should be dissolved. The Secretariat should be closed down. Everybody should be asked to go home and let us save money. The millions of dollars that are being accumulated is not worth it. It's the most reckless and unconscionable thing to do at this time of our national economic predicament.
In an interaction with Citi News, the Member of Parliament for Wa Central, Rashid Purple, urged the police to render an apology to residents of Dondoli in the Wa community following the killing of a middle-aged man by the police on suspicion of being a member of a robbery gang in the area.
I want to urge the police through the IGP to go into this matter. The life of a person is such an important thing to the family, to the individual, to society, to the extent that you don't just take an hour or a minute, a second to shoot and kill the person. And I will want the police to listen to the community what they are saying. No matter what happens, no court, no legal institution has branded a gentleman an armed robber. So they can't tell us he was an armed robber.
Speaking to journalists, the Member of Parliament for Bongo, who doubles as a member of the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament, Edward Bauer, raised eyebrows over the source of fuel for the government's good for oil policy.
You will recall that just last weekend, Bloomberg had reported that the source of this particular petroleum products is from Russia. Indeed, on February 24th, since February 24th, there has been a ship that is hovering on our waters because the source of the product is Russia. And Russia currently is on economic, embargo with us. So the question you then ask yourself, some of the OMCs like Total, Shell, these are Western countries who have been given explicit instructions not to do anything with, Russia. And therefore, even in terms of their, as long as the product, the stance of government of Ghana and the state Ghana since independence up to now has been one of non-alliance. What is the implications of this on our negotiations on the IMF?
He also raised concerns about the ACA AGM deal of the government.
On what basis did the economic management team, led by Bawumia, approve that government should spend close to 1.3 billion in acquiring the interest of AGM in that particular block? What has been the interest of government with the whole saga of ACE? Because as we speak today, ACE, based on just the DWT, that's the ACE block, they were supposed to have brought what we call the plan of development to the Minister of Energy for approval. As we speak now, that has not been done.
During proceedings on Tuesday, the House continued with its debate on the State of the Nation address presented by President Akufo-Addo in Parliament.
Conspicuously missing was Agenda 111. Mr. Speaker, and I am not surprised that he didn't talk about Agenda 111 in details because all is not well with the Agenda 111. Mr. Speaker, at the 8 COVID-19 updates delivered by the president, he promised the good people of this country about the construction of health facilities in this country. The real state of the Agenda 111 is that millions of dollars have been given to contractors and yet they are not on site. Millions of dollars, Mr. Speaker. If you go to Nigeria, a country that is very close to us, Mr. Speaker, they are queuing for fuel. Mr. Speaker, Kenya, they are queuing for fuel. Not too long ago, even France, they were queuing for fuel. But if you come to Ghana and you visit any of our there is no pressure. No one is queuing for fuel in this country. This is due to good governance and the good work done by His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, clearly showing that this country is well and this is the true state of our country.
Reporting from Parliament, my name is Ni Ayikwe Okain for Citi News.
You're still watching the Citi Newsroom on Citi TV, still to come. Family of the middle-aged man who was shot and killed by the police in Wa backs down on their 24-hour ultimatum to the police. We have the details to that story and more after this break. Please stay with us.
Creamy Plus is a fully skimmed evaporated milk. Creamy Plus is a
research has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
You're welcome. Killed by the police last Wednesday in Wa have backed down on their 24-hour ultimatum to the police. The decision follows an intervention by the Inspector General of Police, IGP Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare, appealing to the family to remain calm to allow for thorough investigations into the killing. The family, at a press conference on Monday, threatened to take legal action should the police fail to apologize to them for killing and tagging Abubakar Shahid as a robber. Spokesperson for the family, Mohammed Tamim, in a Citi News interview said they have decided to remain calm, trusting that investigations will exonerate their late brother.
The family gathered and were deliberating on the next step to take when a call came from the IGP. He called me personally to show his condolence and appeal that we should remain calm while justice take its course. He again pledges whosoever found culpable shall be sanctioned. So the Camel then advised themselves, whilst the IGP has given us his word, they have the trust and belief in him. and they are waiting for him. And again, this evening, the MC for one municipality, he also came to reassure us of his side of the how he is going to solve the case, that justice is nothing but what we will get. For now, we need to put our actions on hold, and that was the advice the family heads came together to advise. Whilst the IGP has given us his word, we have trust and believe in him. And whilst the MC, who is also one
The state has opened its case in the trial of the two teenagers charged for the murder of 11-year-old Ishmael Mensah in Kaswa. The family of the deceased, the father of the deceased, who is the prosecution's first witness, will not hold back his tears as he recounted circumstances surrounding the death of his son. There is more in the following report.
It was a tense atmosphere at the Criminal Court 5 of the High Court as father of the deceased battled with his emotions to give a complete account of his testimony in furtherance of the cause for justice for his son. In the about 1 hour of proceedings for each day, both on Monday and Tuesday, Frank Mensah Abdallah can be sensed relieving the pain of the demise of his son, of how he got to learn about the death of his son. The testimony, which began on Monday, saw Mr. Abdallah narrate how an impromptu 2-day journey from Karachi in Kwanta to Kaswa at the behest of his son made him share final moments with his son before the incident. As a retiree staff of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Mr. Abdallah now operates as a trader and stationed more in Karachi in Kwanta in the Oti region. He recollects how his son persistently called him to return home as he had been missed. In his testimony, he stated how joyful his son was when he finally arrived in Kaswa. According to him, he quickly took breakfast made up of egg that was given to him by his son as a welcoming gesture. He decided to rest before spending some quality time with his son. But little did he know that their conversation before the rest would be the last. He testified that few hours into his sleep, he was called out by his wife claiming that his son had been killed. Anxiously, he rushed out of the room only to meet the lifeless body of his son in an uncompleted building close to their house. The father of the deceased claimed that after his son's body was discovered, the father, one of the accused persons, brought the two and asked them to confess standing trial for the killing are Felix Nyako, alleged to have killed for the purpose of money rituals. Father of the deceased, who recounted some of the fond memories of his son, like his ambition to be a pilot, broke into tears. The case has been adjourned to Wednesday, March 15, for cross-examination of the father of the deceased. In court on Tuesday also, the state called its 8th witness in the Aisha 1 case. The witness, a retired assistant superintendent of police, Charles Adaba, investigated Aisha 1 in 2017 when she was first arraigned for the charges of engaging in illegal mining. He testified of having interviewed 4 workers when 40. ASP retired Charles Adaba further testified that in the course of investigations, he discovered that Aisha 1 had taken over lands belonging to some farmers at Bepotinteng. He further claimed that there was no evidence of the accused having any license from the Minerals Commission to engage in mining activities. He also stated that the accused person had employed some persons to work on a mining site at Bepotinteng in the Amansia Central District without authority. The case has been adjourned to March 27 this year.
Now, President Akufo-Addo has reiterated his stance against the wholesale amendment of the Constitution. constitution, but the president maintains that he disagrees with it in principle. There's more in the following report by Citi News' Daniel Sakiti and read to you by Charles Owusukumi.
The 1992 Constitution of Ghana has remained the country's most enduring constitutional document since independence. It has served as a basis for smooth transfer of power, as well as contributed to the country's reputation as a beacon of democracy. Delivering the keynote address on behalf of President Akufo-Addo at the 2023 edition of the GIMPA Law Conference on the theme, the 1992 Constitution of Ghana at 30, taking stock, assessing progress and reflecting on the future, Deputy Attorney General Alfred Tuayeboa praised the judiciary for sustaining the democracy of the country while citing the 2013 and 2021 presidential petitions brought before it for peaceful resolution. He said the country must therefore work hard to consolidate its democratic gains.
Let us remember that our democracy is still young and in its incipient stages compared to other advanced democracies. Our success as a nation is therefore not guaranteed. This means that we must continue to work hard to consolidate our democratic gains and ensure that our institutions remain strong and independent.
Addressing calls for constitutional reforms, the President, through the Deputy Attorney General, rejected a wholesale amendment despite growing calls for it 30 years on.
Our Constitution is indeed a living organism which is capable of growth, and grow it must. In the recent past, there have been several calls for the wholesale amendment of our 1992 Constitution from different quarters. It is on record that I am in principle against such wholesale amendments of our Constitution, but that is not in any way and it is through conferences like this that legal and political scholars and other academics and professionals can deliberate on the future of our Constitution and come out with practical proposals.
Chairperson of the National Commission on Civic Education, Kathleen Addy, also speaking at the event, said constitutional amendments should be done to cure the ills of society. She, however, indicated that the country risks being disappointed if it banks its hopes on constitutional amendments to solve challenges confronting it.
What sort of constitutional reforms, beyond the plethora of existing laws, will make us more law-abiding citizens? Which constitutional reforms will ensure that people who are already paid to deliver government services do not extort arbitrary fees before providing those services to citizens? Which constitutional reforms will fill our hearts with true humility and make us cherish fearless honesty as prescribed in our national anthem? Truth is, we could set ourselves up for great disappointment if we proceed as if the constitutional reforms will resolve all the pertinent challenges we face as a people.
Meanwhile, former Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, Inusef Hussaini, during an interview with Citi News on the sidelines of the program, called for a bipartisan approach in dealing with the clamor for constitutional amendments.
All the amendment and the CRC failed because there was no bipartisan consensus. The amendment proposed by His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo failed because there was no bipartisan consensus. Okay, and so I think that in going forward, we need to build a bipartisan consensus.
You're still watching the Citi Newsroom on Citi TV, still to come. President Akufo-Addo confers national honors on over 19,000 individuals, including Citi TV's Umar Sanda Amadou, and institutions that played significant roles in the country's fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. We'll bring you more shortly. Please stay with us.
Wait a minute, yo!
It's on my nephew!
Wow! This place has changed, yo! Yo! Adra, look at you all grown up, yo!
Some things never change, like Gino's quality recipe that gives my food that rich color, unique natural taste every time.
Smells good, yo!
Hey, sister, we did what Ponsano and Casa, just like I remember.
Uncle, hurry up and let's open the suitcase.
Ajua, chai, never shrink quite fast.
Best jollof I've ever eaten.
Wow, this is real jollof, mommy.
Gino dear, Emma Drania de Ankasa.
Say Gino dear, fie. It's delicious, yo!
This advert is FDA approved.
Yeah, welcome back to the Citi Newsroom. Let's bring you more stories now as President Akufo-Addo has conferred national honors on over 19,000 individuals and institutions that played significant roles in the country's fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. The Citi News' Samiri Afe has more in this report.
The 19,557 awardees included all frontline health workers, nurses, doctors, and lab technicians who were in the thick of events during the pandemic. The pandemic of COVID-19, which hit the country in March of 2020, recorded over 1,000 deaths and 25,000 infections. Presenting the awards, President Akufo-Addo says the country is indebted to these individuals and institutions.
Our relative success in winning the fight against COVID-19 is a testament to the tireless work of our researchers, scientists, advisors, public health managers, frontline healthcare workers, hospital staff, contact tracers, the security services, public and private sector agencies, faith-based organizations, chieftaincy institutions, charitable organizations, and so many others who dedicated themselves to the fight to keep Ghanaians safe. That is why we're here today to express our sincere appreciation and gratitude to all these segments of our population, especially as at the height of the pandemic, Ghana and South Korea were considered the two countries who undertook the best management of the pandemic.
The president also conferred national awards on the legal team that represented the country at the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea against Ivory Coast.
Our victory in the maritime boundary dispute could not have been achieved through the actions of one person, one political party, or one government. It was a collective effort. And it is for this reason that the important roles played by successive governments and groups of individuals cannot be overlooked, discounted, or understated. The judgment of the tribunal has brought finality to a maritime boundary dispute that had been extant for over 5 decades. Although the precise economic impact has yet to be conclusively established, what has emerged quite clearly is that our western maritime boundary remains judgment could strain the friendship that exists between Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire. On the contrary, thanks largely to the spirit of understanding and accommodation exhibited by that great African statesman, President Alassane Ouattara of Côte d'Ivoire, it has rather strengthened the bonds of cooperation between us. Indeed, We now have a strategic partnership agreement called the Partenariat Stratégique with Côte d'Ivoire, negotiated by President Ouattara and I.
Meanwhile, Citi FM and Citi TV's Umaru Sanda Amadou was awarded by the state for his remarkable support to the Ghana COVID-19 Private Sector Fund in the construction of Ghana's foremost infectious disease center at the Ga East Hospital.
Former President John Dramani Mahama says the next National Democratic Congress NDC will not commence new projects, but rather complete abandoned ones. John Mahama contends that the current economic challenges will not afford the government in waiting the chance to begin new projects.
Delegates in the Tano North constituency as part of a campaign tour of the Ahafo region, the National Democratic Congress NDC flag-bearer aspirant John Dramani Mahama says his party will take inventory of all abandoned infrastructure when it assumes office. He says abandoned projects that have been scattered across the country is of great worry to the NDC and must be completed.
Everywhere I've gone in this country, I find abandoned and uncompleted projects. And yet, start completely new projects. And so what I said was, the economic crisis we currently have, by the time the NDC comes into office in 2025, we are still going to have a very restricted fiscal space because of the economic difficulties, challenges. And so a new NDC what we will do is the projects that were ongoing that have been abandoned and uncompleted, we will take an inventory of all of them, and the limited resources that we have, we will dedicate it to finishing those projects.
He further added that the current economic crisis under the NPP administration has compelled most businesses to lay off their staff. He argues that employers are unable to pay salaries of employees.
Wohwe njuma kese a ewo Ghana ha bebre ye contractor for bebre wo omo factory and Ghana ye wonwi bebre eyi nipa edi efiso muntimi nti omo ka biom meaning businessman bakwa owo construction company no ofa nipa be 1,000 and then ejuma e fo aka 200 pe because untimi nti omo ka ezu na eno na mede ye mfanto ho se anka se anka Ghana ye VIP basa ye nyina ya fro fefefe every do ayan kwanta aka se ye konkrai na ye driver ye nim a o drive ye ko na driver for say ye driver no onim driving na we ase ha nyina o nim driving chain obi a enti empam ye driver dada no ne emfa ono embegistia no obegistia na onsesa gia ne enhwe a na hrim or the to reverse ye basi na ekonechi.
The United States of America says it will continue to support African institutions to resolve conflicts as well as strengthen democracy across the continent. This comes at the back of the Operation Flintlock 2023 currently being hosted in Ghana.
The U.S. government has indicated that to gain lasting solutions in conflict resolution, it is critical to first tackle the root causes such as economic, inter- and intracommunal division, weak institutions, and competition over resources. The U.S. government made this known at the Distinguished Visitors Day ceremony for Exercise Flintlock 2023, which was held at the Sogakope Beach Resort in the Volta region on Tuesday. This event was backed with demonstrations from the training sessions the U.S. military and its partners have undertaken over the past 2 weeks. Flintlock is U.S. Africa Command's premier and largest Special Operations Forces exercise in Africa to combat violent extremism in the Sahel and West Africa regions. This year, Ghana is hosting Operation Flintlock for the first time in 15 years with approximately 1,300 service personnel from 30 participating nations. The program, which began on March 1, is expected to end on March 15, 2023. In her keynote address, the U.S. Ambassador to Ghana, Virginia Palmer, indicated that during the Flintlock exercise, partners have been able to build trust between at-risk communities and the armed forces through medical outreach events.
Building initiatives to counter the threat of terrorism and violent extremism with partners in civil society, defense, law enforcement, and the judicial systems. During the Flintlock exercise, we've worked together to build trust between through medical clinics in 2 regions. We're providing medical screenings and basic health care. It's that kind of work that builds trust, improve security, and improve relations between vulnerable communities and our security forces. We continue to support African institutions and efforts to resolve conflict, promote peace, and restore and strengthen democracy and democratic institutions across the continent, and of course here in Ghana. We applaud President Akufo-Addo's efforts to expand the Accra Initiative's work.
Commander of Special Operations Command Africa, Rear Admiral Jamie Sands, gave his expert opinion about the threat of violent extremism and highlighted the Special Operations Exercise Flintlock currently taking place in Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire.
I've spent the last few days visiting the training sites here in Ghana and in Cote d'Ivoire and seeing the high-quality training our forces are participating in. It's always so heartening to see firsthand the tremendous benefit exercises like this bring to all of us. These outstations provide unique training to include urban, expeditionary, and here in Volta, a first time ever for Flintlock, maritime. The growth in capabilities reflects the wide diversity of challenges we're called upon by our collective nations to solve. As a Naval Special Warfare officer, I personally always appreciate seeing the maritime training, and it's great to see both our African and international partners here today.
For today's edition of Citi TV, our website, citinewsroom.com, has more information on our top stories and more. Subscribe to CityTube on YouTube for more exclusive video content from Citi TV. You can also watch Citi TV on DSTV channel 363 and on GoTV channel 182. My name is Michael Obodu. Thank you for watching. As always, please stay safe.